evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Songwriting Simplified with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk in the southeast corner of Scotland, which, of course, is the greatest nation on Earth, the greatest nation in the solar system, the greatest nation in the galaxy, the greatest nation in the quadrant, and the greatest nation of the next door quadrant, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure how long I can keep that kind of patriotism going, but I'm gonna try. Anyway, today is, let's just say, a bit more of an interesting day for those of you that are in the PreSonus world and in the Studio One world, which of course is the same thing. But if you are a part of that, and I rather suspect that most of you that watch this show are indeed part of the Studio One and PreSonus world, today is an interesting day because it has been announced that Studio One Pro 7 is coming, and it is coming on October 9th, which is my birthday. So we have double the reasons to celebrate in roughly 3 weeks' time. So to say I am excited is kind of a wee bit of an understatement, because I've kind of known about this for a long time. But of course, we don't have a whole slew of details, and there are not going to be a whole slew of details released until launch day itself. So there is plenty to look forward to. And hopefully you've all seen the announcement video. If you have not, I recommend as soon as this show is done that you go and watch it. Now, when you watch that video, I recommend, highly recommend, that you watch it 2 or 3 times through so that you can make sure that you get all of the information that is in there, because there is a lot packed into that video. It is a short wee video, but there is a lot of information in there that I don't want anybody to miss or misunderstand or misinterpret or anything like that, because there are people who are posting in the Facebook groups who have kind of misunderstood some things and made some misinterpretations and that kind of thing. So it's important that we get those things right and we get those things understood. So there's nothing wrong with watching a video a few times through until you get all of the information ingrained and understood. And if you do still have questions after having done that and you've watched it 2 or 3 times, then certainly you can post your question to the Facebook groups. You can post your question to the Studio One Plus, although now called the Studio One Pro Plus community. If you're in there and you're a member, then you can go and post there as well. And bear in mind that, you know, there's folks in both places who know a lot more but cannot say anything. Like me, for example, I know a lot of what is to come, but I can't say anything. But we will certainly help go through the information that has been unveiled so that you understand it as best as possible. And if you've still got questions about that, we can help you. One thing I will say is, if you do have those questions about the announcement and about the content of the announcement and things that you're not sure of, please don't make a technical support ticket, because technical support right now are just being bombed. They are being carpet bombed with people making support tickets asking questions about the announcement. So please don't do that. Please post in the PreSonus forum if you'd like to post there, or the PreSonus Facebook Studio One group. One of my moderators will post links to all of these places. So the forum, the PreSonus Studio One Facebook group, if you're a member of that. If not, and you're on Facebook, please go join it. And also, you can post in the Studio One Pro Plus community as well. Those are the best places to post to ask your questions about that announcement. Now, this show is not specifically about that, okay? This is a Songwriting Simplified show. So this show is primarily for questions about songwriting, composing, arranging, music theory. Those are the main things that we do here on this show. Questions about Studio One and that kind of thing can be reserved for Sunday night. So if you've got some very specific questions about Studio One, bearing in mind, can't talk about anything that is to come in detail, okay, beyond what has already been revealed. So that's really the best place for it. But tonight, I know everything from that announcement is fresh in your minds. So tonight, I don't mind, okay? So tonight, I'm happy to take some questions about the Studio One Pro 7 announcement. Can I call it an announcement? Because it kind of is an announcement, but it's also an announcement of an announcement. Can I do that? I'm not sure. Anyway, so yes, that announcement is pretty important, and I know that a lot of you may well have questions about that. So we can talk about that tonight. I don't have a problem with it. So, normally I start the show by talking about who was in first. However, when I set the show up, I had to do a little bit of rejigging and move things around from one monitor to the next. And when I did that, the first 3 posts, for some reason, that were in chat, as soon as I created the show, they just disappeared. So I don't know what happened. So I unfortunately don't genuinely know who was in first. But Billy Morgan says that Kyle was first, he was second, and I'm not sure who was third. And then Craig was fourth. All right, so I'll take that. Because at the moment, at the top of the chat, it shows that Craig is first. But we've also got Tony Stringer here. We've got Rock Tees from New Zealand here as well. We've got John Hawk. We've got Chris Manrakna. And we got Kyle Trajuziak. We got Billy, as I mentioned. We got Don Oliver. We got Rich Cresswell. We got Elusive 1970, who says Buongiorno. Buongiorno to you too, my friend. Bobby Booth is here. John Hawk is here. Aurora's Boring Alice is here as well. Wonder what tonight's topic is about. Yeah. Well, there you go. And Gardner99 is here. Brett Marler is also here. Keith from Radio Talk Frumpet is here. And Bobby Booth is hilarious. He says, get ready to hear about when is Studio One 8 coming out. Never fails. Well, you know what? It might fail now because we'll get into why that might not be a joke anymore, unfortunately. Because I kind of like it. It's kind of a funny joke. Let's see who else we got. We got Neil Thompson here. We got Johnny Guy from Home Studio Trainer is here as well. Johnny, good to see you, buddy. And we've got Sean Carr here. And who else do we have? Scrolling down, we got Danny Taylor. And we've got Paul Morgan. And DJ Vu is here as well. Still scrolling down. And we got Just Bob, who says he's stopping in to say hi, back to normal hours next week. I'm stuck at work. Have a great show. Thank you, Bob. And if you're watching the replay, I hope you enjoy it, mate. Let's see what else we got here. We got Ron Figura is here. We got Jay Feliciano. Good to see you, mate. And GT. I don't know who you are, but I'm glad you're here. Welcome, because it is your first time. Brett Mara is also here, who I think I've already mentioned. So Yum, hello, good to see you. Is it Yum or Yume? I'm not really sure, but anyway, Yum GT says, it's not clear if the Plus members are going to upgrade to version 7 or if the Studio One 6 Perpetual license will be upgraded. The answer to that is both. So, if you are already a member of Studio One Pro Plus, as it is now called, as of today, and your subscription is valid and is active, you will get version 7 deposited into your account for no extra cost if your subscription is active and valid on the day that it's released. Okay? So on October 9th, my birthday, if you have an active membership, then it will just appear in your account when it is launched. And you won't have to pay anything extra. If you're not a member of that and you hold a perpetual license, you can upgrade to version 7 for $149. Okay, so the upgrade is available for both people. So you can get it either way. So if you are a perpetual license holder currently and you quite like the look of the annual what they call the hybrid membership, then you can jump on that. You can actually upgrade to that if you would like to. You can certainly do that. And then what happens is you will get Studio One 7 deposited in your account, Studio One Pro 7, I should say, deposited into your account. And then 12 months later, you get to keep the perpetual license at the point that your membership expires. So whatever it is at, whatever feature updates have been added to it, you'll get to keep all of those in Studio One 7 as a perpetual license. And then if you decide, hey, this is really great, I want to carry on, you can just purchase another 12 months. And on you go. You carry on for another 12 months. And then at the end of that 12 months, you get another perpetual license at that same point, like I said, with all the feature updates up to that particular point. And then if you decide you want to just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going, year after year after year after year after year after year, every 12 months you'll get just another perpetual license, and you will build up a wee collection of perpetual licenses. But that's okay. It does what that means is if you decide that at the end of a 12-month period you don't want to be a member anymore, you will get to keep your perpetual license and all the feature updates that have been added to it. They're yours. That's it. It's yours to keep. And you can carry on using that if you want to. So I hope that answers your question. It is a good one. Neil Thompson says, I'm both relieved and impressed that the standalone software era of Studio One continues. Yes, it does. And we have absolutely no plans of slowing up with that, shall I just say. When we here's the fun thing. We started the subscription way back in 2020. Just actually, in the midst of the pandemic, we started it with Studio One version 5. So Studio One version 5 was launched on July 7th, 2020. And at the same time, we launched what was then called Persona Sphere, which was the new way that you could get Studio One. You could get it as a subscription instead. We've evolved that subscription quite considerably over the last 4 years. We have developed it quite a bit, and we've added new things that you can get as part of that subscription over the last 4 years. So it's developed and grown arms and legs quite a bit. But we have always kept the perpetual license going over those 4 years. And then 2 years ago, we rebranded the membership, the subscription, to Studio One Plus. Why did we do that? The reason that was done is because that's what everybody was calling it anyway. They were either calling it Sphere or they were calling it Studio One. And actually, they were actually already calling it Studio One Plus, Studio One Plus this, Studio One Plus that, Studio One Plus Notion, Studio One Plus. And so it kind of made sense to rename it to Studio One Plus because that's what people were calling it anyway. So that's what we decided to go with. And now we're obviously renaming Studio One to Studio One Pro, because with version 7 launching on October 9th, the artist version is being retired after many, many years of service, and the Prime version is also being retired for the same reason. Many, many years of service. And so what we're left with now is something that is much more streamlined and much simpler, much easier to navigate. You've got just two kind of ways in which you can own the same thing. One is the Studio One Pro 7 Perpetual. The other one is Studio One Pro Plus. So now it's just two ways to basically have the same thing, essentially. So it's much simpler. It's much easier for everybody to navigate. It's much easier for personas. It's much easier for you guys and for me, for customers and everybody else. It really is just so much easier. So that's kind of what happened 2 years ago. And so it was rebranded to Studio One Plus. And now, of course, because Studio One is changing to Studio One Pro because of there being only one edition, then it makes sense to rename the subscription to Studio One Pro Plus, because it's still Studio One plus all of the other stuff. It's just now Studio One Pro plus all the other stuff. So that's kind of what that refers to. So I thought I'd kind of address that as a side issue as well. Why the renaming and all of that? So I hope that answers that. Let's see. Keith, Keith starts his post. He says, "First I was a spherite, and guess what went through my mind instantly? That song, the Gloria Gaynor song, I Will Survive, just went through my mind. First I was a spherite. First I was a spherite, then a plus, and now a pro plus. So many pronouns." Yeah, for some reason I had. First I was afraid, I was petrified. And it's just like, first I was a spherite, then a plus. Maybe I've had too much caffeine today. I'm not sure. But yeah, that was what was going through my head. Anyway. Let's see. Billy Morgan says, why would someone drop Studio One Plus? That's a good question. Why would somebody do that? I don't know. Gardner99 says, might as well get Plus for $179 a year. I would agree with that. Rock T says, hybrid is the best bang for buck. Again, I could not agree more. And it's funny. Me saying that, I have to laugh at myself. Because I have never really been particularly in favor of subscriptions. Until we started doing this, until we started doing Persona Sphere and now what it has grown into, which is Studio One Pro Plus, I was never really a big fan of subscriptions. But now I see and know just how much value there is in the subscription model. I'm completely and utterly, I have shifted my position 180 degrees. And it's not just because I work for Personas. I'm talking about me here. I'm talking about Jonny Lipsham. I'm not talking about Jonny Lipsham, the Personas guy. I'm talking about me. You know, my personal preference has actually shifted 180 degrees. And I'm now actually very much in favor of subscription models. I am now of the view that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to hold on to a perpetual license. I just don't think it does anymore. I think subscription is the way forward, not just because it's good for the companies, because it is good for the companies, but also I think you get the best value. So that would be my view. That's, and I'm speaking personally, that's my view. I have done a whole 180 degrees and changed my personal position. Bobby Booth says, oh, actually, I've missed Danny Taylor. Sorry. He says, is Studio One going to version names like Ed Sheeran albums, plus X, etc.? That's funny. No, it's not. But, as was made clear from the video, the naming convention is changing. So no longer will there be a versioning system like we have had for the last 14 years or so, where you had Studio One version 1, Studio One version 2, version 3, version 4, 5, and now 6, and now 7 coming up. So we're not doing that anymore. So next year, that will change, and it will become time-based instead. So it will be, as was shown in the video, it will be 2025.3, 2025.6, and so on and so forth. So, and that's to kind of go with the feature drop cycle being shorter. So, I think that's the way to go, and I think it's a good thing to do. I think it's a good thing to do, totally. So sorry, I missed that question. So Bobby Booth says, if I get the sub through Sweetwater, should I wait to get it on the 9th, or can I get it now and still be able to keep 7, or do I go back to 6? It's not released yet, so you can't get Studio One 7 now. If you are not a subscriber, and you're interested in what the Sweetwater deal is, because there is a Sweetwater deal that they have unveiled just this morning, go and read that carefully. Go and read that carefully. So if you are looking at a way of being able to get a free upgrade to Studio One 7, look at that Sweetwater deal carefully, is what I would say, and then weigh up your options. Johnny Gives says, I recommend not getting Studio One from Sweetwater. I've had to help so many people who get bad serial numbers on a weekly basis. Yeah, they kind of do have a bit of a problem with some of their product keys not working. So yeah, there is that. That is certainly a thing. Sean Carr says, besides, I'm going to turn this thing off because it's probably pretty loud through the mic. Sean Carr says, besides by changing the name from Persona Sphere, they can bring back the Persona Sphere event with less confusion, wishfully hoping. Who knows? Maybe. I mean, my personal thing, I'm with you there. Speaking for me personally, I would love to see that Persona Sphere event come back again. Fun fact about the Persona Sphere event. The Persona Sphere event was an idea birthed by one of our forum moderators by the name of Skip Jones. Skip was a very close friend of many of ours at Personas, and a very close friend of mine and Jonny Gives in particular. We knew each other very, very well, and sadly he died a few years back. And so that whole event that happened between, I think, 2011, 2012, and 2013, I think it was only 3 years, I think it ran for. That was his idea, and he just pitched it to Rick, and then Rick pitched it to Jim Odom, other Jim, not Jim Pointnot, other Jim, whose last name escapes me, who used to be the CEO of Personas at that time, Jim Mack, who was the CEO of Personas at that time, and they all thought it was a wonderful idea, so it got the green light, and they put it together. It turned out to be a really fantastic event, and unfortunately, I never got to go because I was still a Steinberg Cubase evangelist at that time, so I was not at all interested in Personas products or Studio One at that time. Man, how things have changed. And so after he died, when we had the idea for the subscription model, we actually named it Persona Sphere in honor of Skip's idea and in memory of him. So that was why it was originally called Persona Sphere, not just because it was a great product name, but it was named directly for the Persona Sphere events because that was Skip's idea, and Skip had recently passed away. And so we thought it would be a great way to honor him by, his vision was a vision of a place where Persona's customers could gather. And so that's what happened for 3 years. And then, of course, we created Persona Sphere. And so now there's a virtual place where Persona's customers can gather. And so, his vision has come to reality probably in ways he never imagined. So Neil Thompson says, okay, so the 7 Pro price tag is low because unlike past versions where all future updates to that version were included, it is now just 1 year of updates. Fair for price though. Kind of, sort of. You are kind of, sort of right. Yes. So if you compare the upgrade price for Studio One's Pro 7, so like if you already have version 6 or version 5, and most of you guys do have a version of Studio One, right? So even if you have the artist version, whether you have the artist version or the professional version of any previous version of Studio One, the upgrade price is $149. Okay? Compare that to the price of the subscription for a year. It's actually cheaper. But you miss out on everything that comes with the subscription model, which is a lot. It's a lot. It really is a lot. And of course, it's only going to get bigger and better. So, seriously, there are so many extremely cool things that I cannot talk about that are coming. Not just for Studio One Pro 7, but for the subscription as well. So yeah, you do get a ton. So that upgrade price for the perpetual license for version 6 to version 7 is $149. It's actually pretty darn cheap. And then, of course, it stays at $149. So at the end of the 12 months, at the end of the 12 months, and you decide you're going to upgrade again, albeit you're not going to upgrade to version 8 because version 8 isn't happening because we're not doing versioning anymore. You'll upgrade to whatever point we're at when your 12 months run out, right? So if you decide you want to continue to upgrade, it'll be $149. Although I don't know that for certain because we're not at that point yet where I'm going to be able to state that explicitly. But I rather suspect it will be. 12 months from now, it will be the same price. I can't see it changing at all. So it is a very, very fair price. And the chat just jumped like a kangaroo on crystal meth. So I need to scroll back up and see where I was. Here we go. DJ Vu says, I have the impression that different DAWs are outdoing each other in including different AI applications in their marketing proposal. But in my opinion, that's not the point. Don't know. Be honest, I don't know anything about AI. Other than I have dabbled with ChatGPT and I've played with a couple of chatbots, which was hilarious because I got the chatbot making hilarious jokes. But that's as far as my AI experience goes. And certainly I've not seen really any AI involvement in as features inside of DAW. And I don't think you're going to see that going forward. I'd be very surprised if you did. Yum GT says, yes, I tried to enter the live yesterday, but I had to go somewhere else. Okay, gotcha. All right, you're talking about the after show chat. Okay. I'm trying to be active on the community. Awesome. Glad to hear it. John Hathwaite says it works out about the same price over 2 years for a load more stuff. That is definitely correct. Yes, it really does. Brett says, that's a pity. I was rather looking forward to Studio One Pi. Believe it or not, we've already had Studio One Pi. We had that in 2015, the back end of 2015, when we had Studio One 3.1.4. So unfortunately, you've kind of missed the boat on that one. But I like that joke. DJ Vu says, I have the impression that different dogs... Oh, I've already read that question. Let's see. Johnny Guy says, should we change the name of the main Personas group to Persona Studio One Pro? Yes, we can do that. Yep. We certainly can do that because that name change is active as of now. So if you go to the Personas website, you'll see that the branding is already Studio One Pro. So that's already there. Let's see. Subajaku. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if I have just absolutely, completely ham-fisted butchered your name. I apologize. He says, this is not fair for people who bought Studio One Professional Perpetual license for $3.99. I think $149 is too expensive for user that paid full price. That's not loyalty for old customers. Well, actually, the $149 is in fact the discount for loyalty. Like if you are upgrading from a previous version of Studio One Professional that you have already. So if you are somebody using version 4, version 5, version 6, or even back as far as version 1, and you want to get on board with Studio One 7, you can for $149. I think it's absolutely fair. And to be honest, the upgrade price of $149 has been the same for many years. It's not changed. And like I said, it's actually cheaper. The upgrade price from Perpetual 6 to Perpetual 7 is cheaper than if you were to go to the subscription model. And the reason being is that there's more stuff in the subscription model. But if you don't want all of that stuff, if you don't need Notion, and you don't need the Notion sound libraries, and you don't want the loop libraries, and you don't need the collaboration tools, and you don't need the community area and all of that, where you can meet with and collaborate with other Persona Studio One users, then that's great. If you don't need those, then stick with the Perpetual and upgrade for $149. It's cheaper. You know, it's the same upgrade price as it was 2 years ago. Here's the difference. The difference is that in 12 months, it will also be $149 again. But the difference is there will be a lot more features added to Studio One between the upgrade on October 9th this year to October 9th next year, which, by the way, will be my 50th birthday. It's my 49th this year, but next year will be my 50th birthday. So if you upgrade on the day for the $149, and then in 12 months' time, you decide, no, I don't want to upgrade. It's fine. What you have, you keep. And what you have over those 12 months, you keep. It's fine. You can walk away. But if you decide that you want to either upgrade again, or you decide you want to go to the subscription model, you can. You can. It's pretty easy. But like I said, a lot more features are going to be coming. What are the content of those feature drops? I can't say. Not allowed to. Not going to anyway. Whether I was allowed to or not, I'm not going to. But, you know, kind of what you think is going to be value is kind of hard to say because you don't know what is going to be in those feature drops. And those feature drops are going to be 3 times a year. So I personally think it's very good. I personally think it's very good value. I'm with John Hathwaite, who said, you know, it's cheaper. You know, it's you get a lot more stuff for, you know, the same price for 2 years. So that's it for me personally. But I mean, I respect your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion, and you know what? I'm very glad you've expressed your opinion. And I take your opinion. But like I said, the pricing is what it is. It's not going to change. So, there is a certain point to where arguing about it is not going to change it. It is the way it is. It is the announcement. That's what it's going to be. So let's see. Elusive1970 says, back to songwriting questions. I asked this on the boards today, but how do you break out of a chord progression? If the chord progression repeats 3 to 5 times in the first 2 verses, what would you do for the third verse? Well, verses, there's different ways of approaching what you do with a verse. It depends whether you're taking the more traditional, strophic approach. What do I mean by strophic? Because that sounds like a music technobabble term. It kind of is. But what I mean by strophic is you have the same music for each verse, which means it doesn't really matter if your chord changes are the same for your verses. And then, of course, the chorus is going to have a different set of chord changes. Although you don't have to. There are plenty of hit songs out there that have the exact same chord changes for both verse and chorus. What's the difference? The difference is in the arrangement. And the difference is also likely to be in the harmonic rhythm. There's some really good songs out there. Go check out Steely Dan's Showbiz Kids. It has the same chord changes for both verse and chorus. And it just has one little interlude section where it's very slightly different. But other than that, it has the same groove. It has the same chord changes for both verse and chorus. There's also another Steely Dan song called The Fez, which the verses are based around one little vamp. It's like the same chord changes. And it doesn't really have a verse. It doesn't really have a chorus. It's very vamp based. So, I mean, there are plenty of other songs where everything has kind of been the same chord changes for both verse and chorus. So you don't have to have a different set of chord changes. The secret, if you're going to do that, if you're going to stick to the same chord changes, is either change up the voicing of the chords, change the bass notes of the chords, or change up the arrangement. So, how would we tackle changing voicings? Give you an example. Oops, I just nearly pulled the mic off the table. In fact, it's gonna come off the table. Why is it doing that? Why is it doing that? It never does that. Hang on a second. Let me stabilize my mic for a sec. Okay, so let's say we have this C A minor F G kind of thing going. Which could, on the face of it, sound very boring. What can we do to change this up to make it a little bit more interesting? We can change the voicing. So instead of being, I'm doing second inversion, C major. Let's say I do root instead. Notice I'm working my way up the keyboard, going higher and higher with each chord. So the chords are the same, but the voicings are different. I'm using different inversions. So that's a legit way in which you can differentiate between one verse and the next. And by doing so, even if you're starting low down, then by, maybe later on, in your third verse, you want your third verse to have a little bit more excitement, to be a little bit brighter, just change up the inversion. So instead of using second inversion, which is where the fifth is at the bottom, so 5, 1, 3, change it to 3, 5, 1. Sorry. And now you've got a lot more brightness there that you didn't have before. So that can be a genuine change that makes the difference between one verse and another verse. Another thing you can do is change up the bass note. So instead of having the roots, which, let's face it, your bass player is going to fall asleep before you even get to verse 3. So you can change up the bass note, or you can ask your bass player to do this, but you can change up the bass note. So you can go from, how about this? So that's chord 1, C major, with the third in the bass. And then you can go, so, sorry. So basically, what did I do there? I went third in the bass, and then I went to root A minor, stay on the A, so I now get the third of the F major chord, and then I moved that up one note to the B, which gives me the third of the G chord. Okay, so and so changing either the inversions or changing the bass note will help give you some different options if you're using the same chord changes. Or you can reharmonize. If you're using the same melody for each of your verses, you can reharmonize. What does that mean? That means putting new chord changes underneath your verse. And we've talked about tritonal substitutions and things like that before, and other substitute chords. So you can do that in any way that you want to. You can and if you want to reharmonize, then what you need to do is find common tones between what your melody is and some different chords. So maybe like if your melody is on the G for the first chord, instead of having a C, maybe have an E flat major chord. And that, and then you could go, and then let's say the next note in your chord is an F in your melody rather, then you can just go, you can do a D minor to do that, and then let's say your last melody note is an E, you can do the G13 or you can do the A7. So there's many different ways to harmonize any particular note. And so you can take that approach if you want to change up your chords. And give the same melody some fresh air, if you like. So you can certainly do that, reharmonize. And in actual fact, certainly for the third verse, this is a popular technique. Reharmonizing is a popular technique from classic old church hymns. That is what they used to do. Now, back in the day, the church organist would improvise new chords, with all the stops out on the organ. So you get this big, huge sound for the last verse. Very triumphant last verse. And so they'd reharmonize, or they'd put like the third in the bass in the pedals with the 16-foot stop pulled out. So you get those really, really low notes. So that's a traditional technique for hymn writing. Reharmonize the melody in the last verse. Lots of people do that. And you can certainly do that with, even if you're not writing hymns, if you're just writing, pop songs, rock songs, folk songs, whatever it is, you can certainly reharmonize for your final verse. In fact, I would recommend trying that as a technique? It's that's actually a really, really great question. And of course, you don't have to apologize for breaking up your flow, because this show is Songwriting Simplified. Its primary reason is for songwriting, not for, you know, talking about the new announcement. But the new announcement is pretty important to all of us who are Studio One folks. So let's see. Subajaku, only users that acquired the perpetual license this year from certain months can move to Studio One 7. Users who bought last year are literally screwed up. That's not loyalty with all customers. That's actually incorrect information. That is actually incorrect information. If you had Studio One version 1 in 2009 and you want to upgrade to Studio One 7 when it is released on October 9th, you can do that for $149. You're not screwed. So I don't know where you're getting that from, that only users that acquired a perpetual license this year can move to Studio One 7. That's absolutely not true. It's absolutely not true. DJ Vu says, because of this weird twist of Presonus, I've returned to other DAWs and I'm not comfortable with it. So I'm asking, what does Presonus have to do to make me come back to it? DJ, if you would like to reach out to me, you and I can talk offline, okay? Because we're kind of coming pretty much to the end of the show. And so, you know, if you want to talk about that a little bit more, please do drop me an email. I'd be glad to help you out with that. I don't see how it's a weird twist. All it is just, you know, we've changed the branding a little bit from Studio One to Studio One Pro. And therefore Studio One Plus has changed to Studio One Pro Plus. And the other thing that's changed is the pricing structure a little bit has been finessed. But also what has changed is how often we add new features to Studio One has changed. So instead of it being, you know, a 2-year release cycle with point versions in between, and you had no idea when those point versions were going to be released, we've moved it to a calendar release cycle, which means you know when new features are going to be dropped. You might not know what those new features are, but you know when those feature drops are coming, because, you know, they are on a clock, they are on a calendar. So you know when they're coming. And actually, as was said in the video, that's in response to direct feedback from our customers. Presonus customers have asked for that. A lot of Presonus customers have asked for that. And so it's being done. So I'm not quite sure why you're necessarily wanting to return to another DAW just because of this. So maybe you could drop me an email and kind of explain that out a little bit more, and then I can help you with it. Let's see. Neil Thompson says no new versions. So in 2035, Studio One Pro 44.0. Yeah, it's not going to work like that. It'll be Studio One, whatever the year is. So in your example, Studio One 35, and then 0.3 or 6 or 9 or whatever it's going to be. Because it's on a clock. It's year and month rather than version 7.9 or 7.227. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be on a calendar. If you watch the video again, like I recommended, if you watch the announcement video 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 more times, as many times as you need to make sure you get all the information understood, I recommend you do that. Because there is a lot in that video. No question about it. There's a lot of info in there. And so I would definitely recommend watch that video a few times to make sure you get all the information. Subajaku says, so you consider fair that 149 is fair to upgrade for people who bought the full professional version for $399. The upgrade does not apply for purchases from last year. It has always been 149 to upgrade. So I'm not quite sure where you're getting some of your information from. But if you even go to personas.com, I'm going to show you something. So let's go over here. So hopefully you guys can all see this. Personas.com/buy-studio-1-pro, okay? Which is basically what happens when you click on the buy button, which is what I did to get to this point. Studio One Pro 6 and 7 perpetual license from August 1st, 24. Purchase includes a version 6 and version 7 coming October 9th license, plus 1 year of new feature releases. And there's your upgrade price, $149.99. Okay, doesn't say anything here about what version you are upgrading from. So you can upgrade from version 1 back in 2009, that is 14 years ago, to version 7. It just says here from August 1st, 2024, purchase includes a version 6 and 7 license. So if you buy this upgrade or you bought this upgrade on August 3rd, August 4th, August 5th, whatever, you will get the upgrade to version 6 from whatever version it was that you were on. So version 3, version 4, whatever. You will also get version 7 on October 9th. That's what this means here. Okay? So that's what this means. And that's the price you pay there. That's the upgrade price. This price here, this second price next to it, the $199.99, that is if you are buying the Pro Perpetual license outright, not as an upgrade, as an outright purchase. You have never had Studio One before. That is the price for you, $199.99, which, by the way, is cheaper than it was before. The full outright price used to be $399, right? So we've knocked off $200 from that. So this is your upgrade price, $149.99. Whether you've got version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5, or version 6. It's the same. Okay? So I hope that helps clear up that misunderstanding, because the information you've got there is not correct. The upgrade does not apply from purchases last year. Yes, it does. So you've actually got that information not correct. I'm going back up through because we're actually pretty much out of time. And Rich Cresswell has some wisdom here. He says, consider, we don't know everything yet. That is correct. All we know is the information that has been released in the video today. And that's all that is going to be released between now and October 9th. Rich says, I think the new model is fantastic. And considering that the price is now so low compared to previous licenses, the value with all extensions and instruments is a huge bonus. Exactly. You're getting the audio batch converter, which previously was a paid-for add-on extension, right? Lead Architect, which was also previously, first of all, exclusively to Studio One Plus members, and then made available for sale It's now free. It's now part of Studio One. And, you know, some of the other extensions as well are all there, okay? So you get all of those included. And so, you know, that's a massive bonus. Those are things that people have actually been asking for. As Bobby Booth says here, as long as I can remember, it's always 149. Correct. To upgrade to Studio One, to the latest version of Studio One, has always been 149. That has not changed. What has changed is the outright price for the perpetual license. From never having owned a Presonus product or Studio One ever in your entire life, to buy it outright is now $199 instead of $400, which is what it used to be. So it's cheaper. So it's cheaper either way up that you look at it. Chris Maragna says the price is right on. You can't take your family to dinner for less than $150. Correct. Absolutely correct. I'm just going through to see if I can grab another important question. DJ Vu says, for full information, please explain if the transition to Studio One 7 is really about, and then he cuts off at that point. So I'm not sure where the rest of that question is. Is really about what? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the rest of your question is, DJ. I'm really sorry, buddy. Yeah, please email me. Go to the web address at the bottom there, jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. Drop me an email with your questions, and I will write you back, and I'll give you as full a full amount of information as I can to help you understand what it's all about. Okay? Because actually, let me tell you this, and I wouldn't say this. I wouldn't say this if I didn't believe it, because I'm not that kind of person. I'm not the kind of person to blow smoke up people's arseholes. Okay? I don't do that. I never have. I never will. I never will blow smoke up people's arseholes. So I'm not going to do it now. Not going to do it today. Not going to do it ever. But what I will say is, I think the new thing that has been announced today, I think, is the best value that Presonus has ever offered for Studio One. Straight up. It is the best value that Presonus has ever offered for Studio One. And it is then up to you whether you want to take that or not. So, really is up to you. You've got your own choices. Watch through that video a few times. Go to the presonus.com and check out the information, because there is actually some new information on the Studio One pages of presonus.com. And go through all of that and have a look. And then decide what you want to do. If you want to stick around with Studio One, by all means, stick around with Studio One. We'd love to keep you. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you got to make your own choice, man. You got to make your own choice. So I hope that all helps. Neil says, I went over the announcement video a few times carefully. All extensions and plugins is said, but all is not defined. Does it mean all that are available in the Plus description? You're going to have to give me maybe a wee smidge of context for where you're getting that all extensions and plugins bit from. Neil says, I do sympathize with the buyers of Studio One 6 prior to hybrid. They did pay a lot, and the Studio One Pro kept falling behind. Plus, in features, this new deal for 7 is quite good, but I do get what they're saying. Okay, you're entitled to your opinion, my friend. DJ says, the merger of Fender and Studio One caused a lot of confusion, and I hope that this cooperation will end up with a good commercial solutions, but for Studio One users, it is confusion. I disagree with you wholeheartedly. I totally disagree with you wholeheartedly. I know it seems to be the popular thing to do at the moment to just say, oh, this is all Fender's fault. It's not. It's not actually, to be really honest, Fender actually has very little to do with day-to-day decisions of what goes on with PreSonus. So, the subscription model was started long before Fender got involved. So you can make the argument that the subscription model and the subscription idea and Studio One Plus and all of that came because of Fender, because it didn't. It didn't. That's just straight up completely factually incorrect and inaccurate and wholeheartedly not the case. July 7th, 2020 was the launch of PreSonus Sphere, which is the first version, the first incarnation of the subscription model for Studio One. Fender were not on the scene at that point at all. Not on the scene. PreSonus was its own company at that point. It's its own entity, okay? It was not until November the 1st, 2021 that Fender came into play when they acquired PreSonus. But before then, they had nothing to do with PreSonus at all. Just not in the slightest. So the subscription model has always been a PreSonus idea, a PreSonus concept. And all that's happened is over the last 4 years is that we have developed it and grown it, which is right, because at the end of the day, we have customers who are members who are making feature requests and wanting certain things. So we are, responding to those feature requests in much the same way that, people who have perpetual licenses are also making feature requests, and we're responding to those as well. So some of what is coming and what has been announced today is actually a direct response to customer feature requests. DJ, your answers to your questions will be found on presonus.com. If you want to go and see what you get with the subscription model, go and take a look there. Okay, there is a page dedicated to Studio One Pro Plus, an entire page with a whole slew of information, which gives you all the answers to what the benefits are for subscribers. If you're a monthly subscriber, if you're just paying the $20 a month, you don't get the perpetual license at the end of it, but you get everything else. If you're a subscriber to the hybrid, which is the annual subscription, you do get the perpetual license at the end of it and everything else. If you have a perpetual license, you don't get the everything else. But you do get some new instruments and some new add-ons that used to be, extra paid for extensions. So there's benefits all round for everybody. And the benefits for the subscription model are just going to keep growing because they're just going to keep being added to. So one solution really is this. If you are not yet a member of the subscription model, try it for 1 month. Just try it for 1 month for $20 and see if you like it. And if you don't like it, if it's not for you, if it's not your thing, it's fine, cancel. It's okay. I still like you. I still think you're a very fine contributor to this little community that we've got going on over here. So, and the same goes for anybody that, that they try the subscription, they go, you know what, this really doesn't benefit me at all. It's not really for me. That's okay. If it's not for you, it's not for you. I'm not upset. I'm not going to be upset. But I really don't think that there's necessity to go and, drop everything to go and, learn a new DAW. But, if that's what you really, really want to do, if that's what you really feel like doing, if you really feel like jumping ship and going and trying another DAW, that's okay. As far as I personally, Jonny Lipsham here at this studio speaking to you now is concerned, that's okay. It's up to you. No hard feelings either way. Anyway, we're 12 minutes over time. And with all of that said, I personally think that what we have just unveiled is the best deal that there has ever been for Studio One. And I'm not just saying it, because that's not my style. I don't do that. I don't just say shit. And yes, I swore, but I don't just say shit unless I mean it. All right, so there we go, folks. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. And I'll see you on Sunday for probably more discussion on this very subject. That's okay. I don't mind. You guys have all got questions on it, and that's cool. So if you still got outstanding questions, we can talk about it then. But DJ, otherwise, drop me an email. I'd be happy to help you, man. All right. Everybody have a great rest of your week, and I will see you on Sunday. Good night, everybody.